Hey, I'm Jennifer Page, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
I hope all my experiences are like this. I mean, I've been blessed thus far with all the projects, especially this one, to have such an amazing time shooting it. I mean, apparently I do darkness and death really well, so I don't tell happy stories yet.
When I did the vocals for the chorus of the Phantom of the Opera.
Hello!
Hi, Chloe. How are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm doing really good.
Someone was just leaving the bar with a beer, and then there was this opening, and I just felt myself climbing onto the bar.
It feels kind of like we were laughing about it last night, a family band in a way, because, you know, and that's really exciting as well because, you know, it feels a little bit more like home when you're on tour and stuff.
And even the thought of it seemed insane, but I thought, yeah, maybe let's give it a go.
I wanted to look exactly like they looked on the cover with their big permed hair and their chokers, and like they were so badass and so cool.
It's wild. That stuff really starts to creep up on you.
And you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington. And thank you so much for joining me on this Friday, the 12th of April 2024. So happy Friday to everybody. If this is the start of your weekend, if you're like me and it's not the start of your weekend, hopefully you're still having a good night, a good day, a good afternoon. Quickly, I'd like to thank Mike Gruel, who joined me on Monday of this week. And it was great catching up with Mike. We haven't done a live stream in about 3 years, and we had plenty to discuss. So that was really great catching up with Mike. And I enjoyed everybody that came into the chat. And speaking of which, coming up, I've had some people asking me this since the start of the year, if I'm going to go back into this genre in terms of guests, if I'm going to have a new guest come on from this particular area. And I am happy to say, yes, I am. So the next confirmed live stream interview that I have on the books is next Friday. And Selena Ivy is scheduled to join me at, I want to say 3 p.m. Pacific. If you'd like more details about that appearance, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first. And then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell. If you could also like the video, put a comment, any kind of interaction absolutely helps. Unfortunately, if you're on the Twitch side of things, I just got a little message that I don't know what's going on, but for whatever reason, when I tried to type a certain title in for this particular live stream, it wouldn't do it, like it's some sort of, I don't know, like it's not allowed or something. So unfortunately, we are not streaming on Twitch. We're only streaming on YouTube, but most of my viewership comes from YouTube, to be honest. So I'm just kind of letting people know. And yeah, so I also want to thank my good friend Ken. He actually made the very first tip donation of this year, and we're in April, people. So if you're so inclined, I do have a PayPal me link and a Venmo in the description of every YouTube video that I do. That's only if you're in the position to do so, but I greatly appreciate it because this service costs me money every month. And I am not rich by any means. So if you have questions for my guests for this particular interview or ones in the future, all you do is join, in this case, the YouTube channel, and you should have instant access to the live chat. And you can put that in. I will then incorporate that into the conversation when I can. And that's kind of where we're at. All right. My guest today is a high-flying, risk-taking luchador currently based in the Northwest. He has been entertaining Lucha Libre fans for several years with his hard-fighting spirit and genuine heart. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Media virtual studio, Mr. HALCON NEGRO.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I am amazing. I'm living my best life. It couldn't get any better.
That sounds great. I used to have a friend that used to say that that he's doing great, but he'll get better.
That's right. It gets better every day, every day.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time because I've been, I can't say like I'm a hardcore wrestling fan, but I do go back to 2002 was the first time I went to a live event ever of any kind of wrestling. So it's really a pleasure to have you on to talk about Lucha Libre, talk about wrestling, talk about your training, all the other kind of things that go on because a lot of my viewership, they're not familiar with that world.
Oh yeah, it's super exciting, especially here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a huge audience for professional wrestling, and I was really surprised myself when we moved up here.
Okay, well, maybe that's kind of a good place to start then. So when did you come to the Northwest?
So I was in the United States Army, and I was first stationed here at JBLM in 2011, and so that was the first time. And we've been off and on ever since then. And then, when I retired from the military, we decided to stay.
Okay. Was there a second runner-up place that you were thinking about staying?
Well, so I was born and raised in Texas, and I always imagined myself going back one day. But that initial stay here in Tacoma was just me and my wife just fell in love with it. And she had been here before previously, and she told me that we were going to love it. And a couple of our children were born here, and we actually ended up getting married here in a Wright Park in Tacoma. So it's sort of, it's the place where we feel like our family officially started, and it's the city of destiny. So, it can't get any better.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. It is the city of destiny, and then here's this huge part of your life now, which is associated with Tacoma and the Northwest.
Oh yeah, it's really become home. And it's funny to say because, a native Texan, I love Texas. Everybody from Texas loves Texas. And, I have that Texas pride, Texas tattoo on me, but I think everybody goes out into the world and finds their own place. And, Texas will always be home, but this is, my family's home now. So, we love it here.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you have like say a biological mom or dad, and you have like, eventually if you end up with like a stepmom or stepdad, it can be like a bonus mom, bonus dad. In your case, maybe it's a bonus home.
Oh yeah, it's definitely what it feels like. My parents are both from Texas. I'm the only one in my family that wasn't born in San Antonio. So it makes a little sense that I'm the only one that kind of ventured out. I was born out west in Lubbock, Texas, and
Okay.
but my parents they were so great. I have the greatest parents in the world. My dad was a military man. He was in the Air Force, over 20 years. My mom was a great independent. She had that great independent spirit of a woman. She worked in a music store, and I actually ended up working there with her my senior year of high school, and it was like one of the best times of my life. Going to the music store with her, hanging out, listening to music all day. It was really, really good.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we kind of talked pre-show that, and maybe we'll get into that for a second interview about music and everything else. That we share some things in common, especially with our moms.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she's taken me to some really cool concerts when I was a kid. My first one was Def Leppard. We went and saw Prince together. So like all kinds of exciting stuff.
Nice. And I want to say hi to Stacy, who's joining us from YouTube, watching from Alaska. So hi Stacy. Thanks for joining and tuning in.
Hey, Stacy.
So we do have limited time, so let's kind of jump into things. I know you just recently had a match. I want to say it was like a week ago.
So I wrestled. Yeah, I think it was last weekend at the Seattle Night Market, and that was an amazing venue. The Seattle Night Market has a great crowd. It had around 500 people there or so. And I mean, I don't even really know how to describe it. You know, like when you're wrestling in front of a large crowd like that, they are just so into everything that you do from the moment, you know, you come into sight. And especially when you go to the top rope and you get ready to fly, they're waiting for it. They know someone's going to go flying somewhere. And you can like just feel the crowd building, and then big explosion.
Yeah, that's got to be part. Some of the best things for myself, just as a fan, is that anticipation when you kind of see what's developing, the psychology of a match, and then when someone's gonna, yes, like you just said, gets onto the top rope, you're like, oh, here it comes.
Oh yeah, that's one of the best things about professional wrestling, and I think any wrestler will tell you that, is that we are taking the audience on a journey, like through our physical actions with our body, through the story that we're telling of the struggle of good versus evil. Sometimes good is winning, sometimes bad is winning, and you feel the audience pulling for one side or the other. And, determining how they feel, you can kind of, work that and, pull it out of the audience even more.
Absolutely. I'm thinking back to one of the first Lucha Libre Volcanica matches, or events, I should say, that I ever saw, which I think was maybe 2017, back at the old Evolve Fitness where they used to do their shows every month. And I remember it was sold out. So it's like, sweat dripping off the walls kind of a thing, which I love.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember. I think it may have been Ethan HD and Sonico were doing the match. And then they had the audience in the palm of their hands. Everything back and forth, like, oh, he's going to finish him. Oh, no, he didn't do it. I mean, it just kept on going and going. And they totally fed off the audience, which was awesome. And that was one of my early experiences there, which made me want to keep coming back. Like, man, look what they're doing here. And I didn't even realize it was going on locally. I just was used to, like, the WWE and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, crap, we got some really great stuff right in my own backyard.
Oh yeah, there is a huge wrestling scene here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a ton of American companies, Lucha Libre Volcanica. We put on good lucha shows, everywhere, all year long. 2017, I know that I was not at that show because I was stationed in Korea that year. So I was still in the Army at the time. And actually, I just suffered a torn ACL. That was my third torn ACL in 2017. So I was rehabbing that. But yeah, the old Evolve gym that place was so awesome. When it would get packed, you couldn't stuff enough people in there, and the crowd was amazing, fantastic every time.
Yeah, I remember. The very first time that I went there, not only was it sold out, but I loved that I saw families there. I saw, not only just hardcore wrestling fans, but there's also some curious people in the area from that Seattle area. They're kind of said, what is this thing on Saturday night? And came and checked it out, and they're just like blown away by it. I mean, especially when people come flying out of the ring. I mean, it's like, you're part of the show.
Oh yeah, and to me, that's one of the great things about Lucha Libre is it's so revolving around the family. When I started training there at Volcanica, we had all skill levels. There was children training. My wife and my kids would come, watch us train. And then even, I don't know if you know this or the viewers know, but even my son trained there at Lucha Libre Volcanica, and he wrestled. And we actually became the LLV tag team champions in, I believe it was 2019 or 2020. So me and my son, we were tag team champions for about a year in Lucha Libre Volcanica. So it's really a family company, and that's one of the best things I love about LLV.
That's awesome, and what an awesome time for you as a father to be the tag team champion with your son.
I'll tell you, I mean, I know all the parents out there, everybody has, great, memories with their children. I know like one of the absolute best moments of my life was being in the ring, wrestling side by side with my son, and the finisher. So I got we wrestled the Cooks, Brian and Kevin Cook. They had the tag team titles. We dumped one out. I got the other one on the ground. My son went up to the top rope, and I was standing there with my hands raised, and he did a frog splash off the top rope, and I helped the ref count to 3. It was such an amazing moment. We hugged right afterwards, and that is sort of like what wrestling is all about, the emotions of it, because the crowd, and that was there at the Seattle night market, so it was a huge crowd. Everybody knew we were father and son. It was HALCON Negro and HALCON Negro Jr., and it was just such a touching moment. The crowd really let us feel it, and it was just really amazing.
It sounds amazing. I mean, I'm picturing all that in my head as you were describing the finishing part of that match and that moment. And I've been a part of those kind of things where just that energy from the crowd, and especially in this case, that when they recognize it's a father and son tag team and they just won the belts, and there's really nothing better.
Oh yeah, I mean it's really Jose Gomez. He's the professor there at Lucha Libre Volcanica. And he created such a welcoming environment from the moment that I stepped into that ring. And everything that I did, it was all by chance, the way I started wrestling. I had been a fan of wrestling, since the day I was born, basically, since I was a little kid. And me and my brother and my dad would all, we always watch wrestling. And how I came to LLV was just purely by chance. So I was stationed here at JBLM. I was going out for a run. I was coming back to the apartments that we were living in there in Tacoma, and my neighbors were going out to a show. They said, "Hey, there's a Lucha Libre show over at the University of Puget Sound." And I was like, "What? That's crazy. I love Lucha Libre." And so I, ran inside and I told Juanita, my wife, I said, "Hey, let's take the kids and, go down and watch the show." One of our sons was having a kind of a meltdown, didn't really want to go. And so I said, you know what? We can just stay home, let's wife fight it. But my wife, being the strong woman that she is, said, "Nope, the kids got to know when we make a plan to do something, we're going to go do it." So it was my neighbors, my wife, and then we went to the show, and I was buying souvenirs for the kids, and the woman behind the counter said, "We have a school here if you'd ever thought about training." And the show was on a Saturday. I held that card in my hand all day Sunday, all day Monday. And so finally Monday evening I called Jose and I told him, "Hey, I was interested." And he said the beginners classes were Monday and Wednesday. So that Wednesday I showed up, and the moment I stepped into the ring, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I think people have said that a million times. You'll hear someone say the moment they held a guitar, they knew it. And that's exactly how I felt when I stepped into a wrestling ring. And I haven't stopped since. And it's totally changed my life in, so many positive ways. And it was all by chance. So really my wife, my neighbors, they really were a true blessing to me.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that, and you're making it so easy. I was going to ask you about your training background, and you already gave it to me.
Well, that was the hard part. So the hard part was the training, because I was still in the Army at the time. So about 3 days a week that first year, and what made it so difficult is I had to be at, PT for the Army at 6:30 in the morning. So I would work all day in the Army, race over to Renton where the gym was, be in the ring for a few hours, come back home, get something to eat real quick, shower, and then do it all over again the next day. But it was so worth it. I think, when you love something, you'll put in the effort and, do anything to make your dreams come true.
You're absolutely right about that, and I can relate to that even like with what I do with Eclectic Arts. That it's been, I'm a one man show, and anything that's happened, either I can take the credit for it or I can take the blame for it because I had to put in all the work for it. So it's kind of interesting to be able to look back at because we started right. I started in 2011, and it was just something as a fanzine, something from the music side of things before it blew up into all these other things that I do. But you're right. If you're passionate about something, it won't seem like work because you just want to get better at it. You want to just keep doing it and watch it grow and expand, whatever it happens to be that you're passionate about.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's exactly like what you said is, you maybe not have an end goal because it's always the journey that you're going to remember, So I think, a lot of wrestlers have dreams of making it big, hitting the WWE or one of the big companies or something like that. And I mean, I would do too. I think it'd be great, to make it to a big company. But in the end, the memories that you made along the way is what's going to be important, not necessarily where your end point is, because, like however much success you accumulate, even like for me right now, the more I wrestle, it's the more time away from my family, from my wife and kids. And that's hard, So, I'm really happy with, what I've been able to do so far because it sort of keeps me here in the Northwest, and spending time with the wife and kids is, always going to be number one.
Yeah, and you just kind of hit the nail on the head. I think for a lot of people out there, whether they're creative people, athletic people, it's trying to find balance. I talk about it all the time during my interviews. With whatever you have going on in your own personal life and professional life, it's trying to strike balance there. And not get to where it's like all tilted to one side because then you got to sit there and right that ship at some point.
Oh yeah, and that they taught us a lot about that in the military because the military takes so much from you, and your family really pays the price for it. So, I mean, my wife has been the absolute best. I mean, she is the best. She's supported me in my military career, which, lasted over 22 years. She supported me in my wrestling career, and, she even walked me to the ring, my very first match, which that was a very special moment too. Just walking down the aisle with her is almost like we were getting married again.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so many things for me to kind of unpack here, and I know we have limited time. And Stacy, I agree with your comment about how much she loves the mystery, the ring gear, the flips and moves, the whole culture of lucha libre, and she saw you for the first time or saw a show in Seattle as well. Has been a fan ever since.
Yeah, she actually sent me the video, the one I actually jumped on the stage right in front of her. That was her video. She was sitting right there. And I was like, whoa, what a perfect angle. When I saw that, I was just like, and I mean, it looks so cool. Yeah, and that was there at Washington Hall. And I mean, what an amazing angle she captured of me jumping off the stage. It looked like I was parachuting down or something.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great to know. I love behind the scenes details about where things happened or they came from.
Well, yeah. So I feel like I'm a lesser known. I mean, I'm not very popular. My only social media is Facebook. And I feel like I'm a great hidden gem here in the Northwest, everywhere. I've wrestled a few of the American companies, primarily for Volcanica, but everywhere I go, people seem to be pretty excited about, me showing up. So I really appreciate, all the fan support out there.
Yeah, well, and I distinctly remember you because I remember you had camo pants.
Yes.
Yeah, and also the tribal on your back. Those are the two things I definitely remember just from your look, let alone your
Oh
wrestling
yeah,
style.
yeah, and that's. I mean, I think there's something to that, to where there is, like that's not something necessarily that I did. I just like kind of, had that cool look, and but
Well, and it's kind of like what they say. It's like you take who you are and you amplify it in wrestling.
oh yeah, and that first mask I had, me and my wife designed it together, and so I mean that, the family aspect is always there.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, this was like a trailer, I guess, for folks, everybody. Because as you
Oh
can
yeah.
tell, yeah, we have much more to discuss. So I'm going to be reaching out to HALCON offline here, and we'll try to figure out a time to schedule to have them come back, and we can really kind of dig in deep, because we only scratched the surface here, folks. There's a lot more to go.
Oh yeah, we can talk for hours. But until then, so May 3rd, Snoqualmie Casino. It's gonna be awesome. Lucha Libre Volcanica, Snoqualmie Casino, May 3rd. May 4th, I'll be at the Star Theater in Portland for Lucha de Mayhem. It's gonna be another amazing show.
Awesome. So there you go, folks. May 3rd, May 4th. And HALCON, thank you so much for taking the time. And I definitely will be reaching out to you, and we'll reconnect again and go another round.
All righty. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.